Hi, everybody, and welcome to Alicia Dianne Art. This is the first official episode of Studying the Masters, season 4. So, wow, I can't believe we already did 3, and now we're doing the children's book edition. So, I'm really excited for this because I really love children's book illustration, and it's one of my desires and one of my goals to really get stronger and more efficient in digital painting and children's book illustration because I want to lean more into that. And I have a couple of publishing projects that I'm working on that I want to get out into the world. So let's go ahead and give this a study. The artist I'm looking at today is Lucy Fleming. And I'm briefly going to share with you, let's see. How do I change my view? Let's see if I can change my view. All right, so let's go to Google Chrome. All right, so this is the artist. I really like her work, and I learned about her actually from a class I took on Domestica. I do a lot of classes on there, and I really found her stuff like inspiring and cool, and I just love like the cuteness of it. It reminds me a lot of one of my favorite artists, Mary Blair. So I want to get into doing one of her artworks, and the one we're going to do today is this one. It's called Voyagers or Foragers. So we'll work on this one. Follow along with me and I will show you what we're going to do. Alright, so I'm going to make my screen a little bit bigger. And let's see. I'm going to use Photoshop. I usually have been drawing mostly in Procreate lately, but Photoshop is still a wonderful tool that I like to use. It's great for stuff like this, like sharing, drawing examples. So it's going to be a good process. Please don't mind me if I'm speaking kind of slow because I got sick this week. I got sick this week, unfortunately. It's not good to ever get sick, but you know, it happens. So I think I'm going to take myself out so that I'm not distracting with my sick face. I might have to blow my nose every once in a while, so hopefully it doesn't gross you out too much. I need to be able to see my example. You won't be able to see it, but you can go ahead and look at her work on her website. I don't like to leave artists' work up too long because there are, like, you know, copyright issues with sharing on YouTube, so I don't want to violate any of that. I want to keep my channel going. So I'm just going to leave it like this, and let's see. I might need to see this a little bit. Right. Let me just sketch it out. So on my first layer, I'm just going to do a quick sketch of the whole scene. I like to typically work with like a nice brown color. So what I want to get first is figure out where everything is. I don't feel like this is my normal brush, is it? Feels different for some reason. It could be wrong, but it feels a little different. Let's see. Dry media. It's one of these. Let me try this one and see how I like this. No, it doesn't feel right. I know it's one of these. Is it this one? No. But that's not a bad brush. I don't know. Maybe I'll just go back to this, whatever this is. Alright. Undo that. Alright, so let's go ahead and I want to get those basic shapes in first. keeping in mind that I want to make my shapes like feel complementary. So I'm thinking in mind of the shape language when I'm doing this. I don't want it to feel like, what's the word? I don't want my shapes to feel off. I want my shapes to feel right. So even though I'm like, copying what I'm seeing, I'm still keeping in mind like how I want to keep things going. So I need a little bit of a platform to stand on. So I'm just keeping that in mind. Let's see. There's a couple of other things going on, like this tree here. And I'm just going to be like problem solving as I'm going through this and kind of figuring out like how she did things. And explaining the process as I go. I know that she's done a lot of like best-selling books. She talks about it in the Domestica class, like the types of work that she's done. I bought one of her books recently just to kind of check out her style. I really love how she does her backgrounds, and that's really why I wanted to study her work, because her characters are cute and I like what she does, but it feels like for me it's not the style that I take for my characters. But I really want to see if I can incorporate some of the design that she does for the backgrounds, because that's really my favorite part of her work. I like how she makes it look childish, but actually at the same time it feels really fun, and it feels kind of effortless too, which I really love. And it's very folk arty, which if I haven't talked about before, it's like my favorite type of art. I love folk art. Let me take this down a little bit. Let's see. I'm actually working on a children's book now, freelance. Let's see. So it was important to me to kind of like figure out to do this now, because I'd been thinking about doing another studying the masters for like a long time already, but I kept on putting it off because I'm like, I don't think I have time to do it and all of that stuff I was thinking. But now I'm like, all right, there's some things I really need to learn. There's some things I really want to get better at and I want to challenge myself. And so I'm like, all right, I'm not going to put this off anymore. I'm just going to do it. All right. Let's see. These might be a little too big. Make these smaller. I want to think about the space I'm using. And I think I'm going to change this one a little bit. It's more angled in. And that's one thing that I learned about, that I was taught about composition in college that I would never forget. It's like, always have things facing in, have things facing towards where you want people to look. So that means on your plans, everything that's external, you want to make sure that everything is kind of pointing the viewer to where you want them to be looking at. Even if it's subtle, you want it to... Somebody sneeze outside. I'm not the only one that's sick. So you want to constantly be thinking about where you want the viewer to look. In this case, it's right in the center, like that's where the two kids are. So then that way all the plants, are going to be kind of facing them in a sense. And let's see. Even this can be a little bit more in. Let's see. There's a whole lot of plants in this picture, which I really appreciate and like. It was not, it took me a while to start like understanding plants. And I would always say that, I just like to draw like living things and I focused on like doing people and animals, but living things also includes plants. And as I'm getting older, I'm understanding that more. Like, they're their own little characters in a sense. If you remember, in that film Fantasia, they actually, or not even Fantasia, it's Alice in Wonderland, where the animals really, like the plants really do like kind of, I think they do that in Fantasia too actually, where the plants actually do become their own little characters, and they have faces, and they're funny, and they have all these different design elements to them. So, and then in a sense, you do kind of want to think about your plants as like parts of your story. Even if it's a single illustration, you kind of want to, it all tells a story at some point. Okay, I'm going to make this water level a little bit lower. So it's not going to start where I originally had it starting. I'm going to make it start a little bit lower. So instead of being up there, I'll have it start in this range. Try and get that straight as I can. And start getting the plants that are over here in this area. I may even make this come a little bit more centered here. Because the little kids are really in the center. I want to keep that. So that's pretty important to the story, I think. Even the way this is. Let's see. Maybe I'll move these guys over a little bit. So let's see, I'm gonna keep figuring out where these plants are. Here this is. Another one, and I think I will definitely cover her too, is Marissa. I think her name is Marissa Valdez. And she has a class also on Domestica, and it talks about having a children's book portfolio, which is good if you're like looking like I am, hopefully, for like an agent. And she tells you like all the different types of illustrations to have in your portfolio if you're looking for getting work in that area. And she talks about like having all different age groups in your book, because stories typically, especially children's book stories, can have all types of ages. You have your grandma, you have mom, dad, you might have animals, other kids. You want to incorporate like some diversity with races, and even like people with disabilities. Like she recommends like also having, you might have a character in a wheelchair or something like that. And it's good to have all of those things. And you might have other characters that have different religion, like maybe like you have a woman with a hijab or something like that. So that is a good thing to incorporate too, and a good thing to think about as you looking to make a children's book portfolio, because that's really the area that I'm kind of leaning in on top of making graphic novels. I think I just want to work on just like print work. I think that's I think that's where my career is heading me. It's just like towards like publishing books. Okay. And you want to, even when you're doing lots of different stems, it's good to know where all of them are coming from and which ones are attached to what. You don't want to just kind of blindly have just random stuff and not really know where it starts or ends. Like, you should follow through to the other side when you have certain types of elements. Like this bush here, I want it to follow all the way through and know that it's behind this other object. And that's where you can also like draw through shapes. Let's see. I don't think I need this in there anymore. Alright. Let's see. And there's a lot going on. As I'm drawing this, I'm like, there's a lot of elements. A whole lot. And even right now, I'm just barely getting in. We're still like in the thumbnailing stage. I haven't even gotten past that yet. But that's okay. One of the things that I would also say is like, you never want to rush stuff like this. Even if it's a study. Like, if you're going to study something, then really study it. Like, instead of studying in a book, which we still have to do as artists. I mean, one of the ways we learn is just by learning from other artists, by doing what they did, replicating what they did, so that we can learn how to do it. And it starts to stand out. Every time I do a study like this, I learn something. Like, I learned something about that artist that I didn't realize just by looking at it. Because it forces you to pay attention to the details that you didn't think about before. It really like forces you to think, oh, okay, I didn't see that. You know? I'm trying to look back and forth now and see what I need to add. I think I might move this rock. Let's see. This is a second log that's going across this way. And then the rock is like more round, partially submerged in the water. And there's several rocks. You notice I didn't even start drawing the characters yet, because that's such a foreground element. I'm not even thinking about that right now. I want to make sure that I get all the stuff in the background right. You do your character design, separately. I would definitely plan out my characters before doing an illustration like this. I'm sure this artist does the same thing. And you plan out your characters, what they're gonna look like, and then like once you add them, they're like, the cherry on top. Well, they should be their own cherry. They're each like their own ice cream, so you're just like combining two sundaes in a sense, because they're both like, especially for like doing a full illustration, like you just don't want to get distracted, is what I'm saying. You don't want to get distracted. And for me, not getting distracted is figuring out my background. Like, I'm not like, I would plan my characters separately, figure them out, do the designs and all that. But then I also have to take the time to figure out my background, what that's going to look like, how that's going to, be. I think it actually doesn't go back into the water. It goes like onto the land over here. So I'll do that. And you can do this with any artist that you like admire. And you're not necessarily limited to doing it digitally. I like to do it digitally because it helps me to understand digital. But if there's any type of medium that you want to understand, you can do it in that medium. Like you could be doing the same piece in gouache if you wanted to learn gouache better. Like we have to move these rocks again. I'm noticing there's other stuff that I didn't incorporate before. And I'm trying to go around it so that hopefully I can do it without messing with the other lines. Make it just a little bit smaller. Yeah. Alright. Because I noticed that there's more rocks right here. And over here. There's so many. Alright, so let's see. There's so much more to add. There's so many plans, it's ridiculous. I just didn't even realize how many there were. It must have took her forever to figure out this design out. Or maybe not. Maybe just like instinctual at some point. I feel like it does become instinctual the more you do a particular type of work, the more instinctual it becomes. And that's exactly why I want to do these studies, so that it can become more instinctual for me. Because right now it's like, it's definitely not easy to try and figure these out. But I want to figure it out. But I love how she's making it so interesting, even like before there's any color. It's still a lot to look at. Like and I think that's really important when you're doing children's books, because you want them to have lots to look at, because they get bored so easily. Like little kids, especially picture book age, is like 5 to 8 years old. They have a very short attention span, and so you want to make sure that whatever you're making is has enough going on that it's really like engaging, you know. And it doesn't feel like, oh, like boring. Like, I think it's important too to think about even when you're doing your graphic novels and stuff. It made me think, because I noticed like when I made my first one, there's a lot of things that I wanted to, that I realized later that, oh, I could have added more here, like to like the house designs and like little elements in the neighborhood, and that, you know, I could have done more. But it just makes me think, like, now I'm doing the second book, I'm like, okay, well, I can learn from that experience. Doesn't mean that you like work on your first project forever and you never put it out. It just means every time you make a new one, it's going to be a little bit better than the last one, because you're learning more. And I talked about that before, but I think it's important to remember that. Like, doesn't mean you just sit and get stuck and like, oh, you don't know what to add. Just do your best, and then from there you'll learn how to do it better. That's kind of what we can all shoot for, right? This one feels a little bit smaller in that sense. And I'll just continue each one until it's completely done. It might take me a couple of different episodes to finish each one, and I'm okay with that. I just want to finish it to completion so that I can really get the most out of it, learn the most out of it, and hopefully by proxy you learn the most out of it as well. But I know it's never a good thing to have a bunch of unfinished artworks, whether it's a study or what. Like, just sometimes you just gotta finish, because then you just have a whole bunch of stuff that you can't really use, you know, or that you can't fully learn from. I just realized too, like, even making these little shapes, I need to be careful to make them look appealing. I think all of your shapes need to look appealing, like regardless of what they are. And that's one of the things that was a struggle for me, like starting to do plants, is like the shapes that I was using look kind of gross, you know. They look kind of awkward, And even though you might be trying to do the exact shape, it might not translate that well. So just think about like making shapes that look nice together. Um, that's really important. But it's something that I didn't learn until I actually did it, and I was like, oh, okay, I see there's something weird about that shape that I don't like. So I better change it. I'll move this a little bit. And I believe that on my last live stream, I said that these were going to be 2-hour episodes, but the way that my introvertism works, the way my anxiety works, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do 1-hour episodes because I think that's all I can really do right now. Maybe later I'll do a couple, here and there that are longer when I can, when I feel able to. But right now I'm just like, I'm already out of my comfort zone sometimes. I feel good being here. I feel comfortable being here, but it is like, as an introvert, it just, it takes me like, I gotta get my head in the game every time. I gotta like take my breaths, say my little prayer, and then I can go. And that's just being for real. That's just me like being completely honest with y'all. I'm not like a natural extrovert, but I do enjoy this. And it's something that you practice too, like every time, just like artwork. Like you practice learning how to feel comfortable teaching. The best thing I ever did for teaching was I took this class called Charisma on Command, or like Charisma University. They have a YouTube channel that's pretty popular. They got a good amount of, they got a lot of subscribers, I know that. But they offer a class. You have to pay, of course. But there was just one lesson that really stood out to me that really helped me a lot. And maybe I'll save you some money by telling you this. I think too, like the whole combination of everything you learn together is really what, can lead to like one thing, like one part of it triggering you. So this part was what stood out to me, but if you get the whole class, I think it's definitely worth it. It might be something else, that stands out for you. But anyway, the point was like, is like you never really have nothing to say. As introverts, we feel like we have nothing to say, and like we get stuck in just like awkward moments of silence. But you never really are. You never really need to do that because there's always something happening in your mind. Is a problem is we think that whatever is in our mind is not important enough to share, and that's one thing I did not realize is that I have thoughts in my head, but it just didn't feel like they were really important thoughts or relevant to the conversation. But it's okay to just say whatever thoughts are kind of floating around and kind of maybe ask questions to somebody or just make a comment about something that's going on or that's in your life or in popular culture. I mean, obviously you want to be appropriate. If you have an inappropriate thought, which we all do at times, like keep that one in your head. But if you have like just something that you're randomly thinking about, it's okay to talk about that. That really helped me out a lot, especially with teaching and doing things like live streaming and hosting the meetup. It just helped me to just lower my guard down about what I thought was not an important thought and just being able to share whatever I was thinking and just kind of ask, like, even if it's a silly question, it builds relationship. It helps you to practice public speaking and talking to people. And that really helped me. That was a good piece of advice. There were other pieces of advice I got from it too, but that was a good one. Alrighty. Let's see where else we got. I like this. Little lily pads. I love like the little tidbits of texture too that are like throughout. Like little pieces of texture. I'll be covering several artists in this new series of studying the masters, but I definitely will do a few episodes of my favorites, and I'm guessing that this one will be longer for that cause because I'm not just focusing on one artist. I'm going to do multiple, and some artists may take up a few episodes, like 3 or 4 or maybe even more. So I think this will be a long series. I'm not planning on ending it anytime soon, especially since it's something I really want to learn more about and really focus on more. So yeah, I'll definitely be doing more. Like, this will be a longer series. Instead of 10 episodes, it will probably be 20 or maybe even 30. I'm not gonna lie, because I just am really interested in it myself, and that way we can learn together. That's my hope anyway, that we can learn some stuff together. I'm not always happy with my shape language. I think I need to like plan them out first before I do like the little leaf section. So I'm thinking I need to like do like plan out the shape a little bit more. Before I go into detail. So maybe it's all about shape language I'm learning with, especially with children's books. You really need to get that shape language right. But see, just by adding that little barrier and then coming in, I think it helps my design a lot. It feels a little bit more pleasing to the eye, and I think that's really one of the key things. Is everything needs to be appealing when you're making stuff for kids, and like it needs to be more appealing when you're making stuff for kids. Like, that's why you'll see like take what's appealing and then make it more appealing. And that is really the essence of like children's books, like children's entertainment, even like children's TV. You have to make it as appealing as possible, because the younger they are, like the shorter their attention span is, and also like complex things are confusing for them. You know, you need to simplify and make it more appealing, like constantly. So that's why you'll notice like most of like children's like the kindergarten TV shows and stuff, they'll just use like primary colors. Like a lot of TV shows will use complementary colors, but for like why, like they use I want to say what I was thinking, like in my head for a second, like Y7, like that's like for ages like 7 years. But even before that, it's like the pre-K age. You'll find that the work made for them is like super complementary colors, super simplified style. I think this might be even a little bit lower. So there's like think about your borders too. That's pretty important. Even like just about every illustration painting that you really pay attention to, there's some type of a border, and that's just good composition. This is like keeping your audience's eye in the page. That's what I've been trying to teach my son too, because he's in art school right now and learning all this kind of thing. Just trying to like remind him of these sort of essential things that don't seem like, it might not seem like a big deal, but it makes a huge difference, and it makes it a lot easier for you too as the artist. Just to kind of be aware of certain things, be aware of the composition, the colors you're using, are they complementary? I think everyone should have like a color wheel. Get your color wheel. Buy a color wheel. I think it was only like a few bucks at an art supply store or Amazon, whatever, and it will tell you on there like which colors are. It should get the one that has the complementary colors already on there. You should have like a little twisting ring to show you. And I definitely need to have like an episode for just making color palettes, because I didn't start doing that till like till the last year, where I realized the importance of having a color palette. And I think I really learned that from taking Lucy's class. It really helped me to figure that out, because it just wasn't something that I thought about, because I wasn't, it was, when I went to art school, it was different, especially for animation. It was like, I think they just taught us what they thought was most important for us at the time to learn, and that's really just like line art, which I am really still grateful that, it taught me all the basics that I needed, but I didn't understand color for the longest time, and I'm still learning it. But how Lucy makes color palettes is really, it really helped me a lot. Like she'll have like, she'll pick a color palette. She'll make a mood board, and she'll pick a color palette based on the mood board, which is really helpful. It takes out a lot of the guesswork. Having a color palette in general takes out a lot of the guesswork, because when you have just a whole bunch of paint, and you have like a digital paint, it's even worse, because you have just about every color under the sun. It really helps you to simplify things when you just go ahead and have that color palette ready to go, simplified, only using like maybe like 6 different hues, and then you can go back and forth with tuning how dark or light you want it to be. So adding like the tint and the shading is something totally else, but just having those, like that simple palette of only like 6 colors, really, it just makes everything so much simpler. And I noticed that a lot when you learn more about art, you realize the simpler that you can figure things, the simpler you make things, is the better. Don't like the shape of this. It's not simple enough. Always be aware of the shapes of things. You want to have symmetry, and that means just evenness, That's all it is. It's being even. Try to make things like level out. So even if one side is bigger than the other, try to use that golden mean, the golden ratio, which if you're not sure what that is, you can easily Google that. Golden ratio. Alright, let's see. What else can I get done in the short amount of time we have left? I can't believe it took me this long just to do the sketch. It's never taken this long to do just the sketch, but I think that's kind of important to know. All of that information is still useful, because it made me realize now, okay, well, I need to spend more time on my sketch. have a full sketch before I start painting. And I didn't even do the characters yet, so have a full background with lots of details and organics. Because usually this part goes by pretty quickly, but now it's like there's a lot going on even before we get to even think about color. There's a lot of things happening, and there's so much more that I didn't draw yet. This is more heart-shaped. Even here, I'm going to do a little bit more heart-shaped. Maybe I'll connect it to the same one, keeping in mind which stems are connected to which. So it's going to make a difference. You don't want to have stuff that's just coming out of nowhere. Even if people don't know, but people don't know that they know. People know something's off. They realize something's off with your picture, even if they're not able to figure out what it is. But stuff like that, I feel like it makes a difference over time, because somebody will, like, it won't read the same. So don't skim out on like knowing the logistics of your picture. I think makes a big difference. Knowing the logistics of your composition too. There's so much going on. I didn't even know before how much she has going on. But it makes me feel more confident too, because I'm like, oh, okay. This stuff is happening. I didn't even know it before. Now I can incorporate it. Now I can steal it. Just kidding. Just I can learn from it. That's the point. Now I can learn from it. Because I didn't realize it before. There's a whole lot more going on over there too. I think I need to change my canvas size. And I think I will do that. I'll add like a inch. But there's more going on the other side. So the width, maybe I'll make it half an inch. So let me go to the background first. Unlock it. I'm gonna fill that in. And I'm gonna move this over. So there's all quite a bit going on the other side that I didn't even get to fill in. So that's another part too, is figuring out how the size is. Can lock this back. Go back here. But look how much is happening. Like I have a whole sketch before we even start doing anything else. All right. Let's see. What else is there? I think this rock is wider than I need it. There's little bobble things. These are so cute. I love these little plants, these little round plants that she makes. I don't know what they are in real life. I'll have to figure out like what plant this is. I know she showed like her Pinterest board and had like some little round plants, but I'll have to go and like get a picture and like put it in like my app that tells me what plants things are. I think she's from the UK too. I don't know if it's a particular flower from the UK that they don't have here, but I just think they look so cute. They look like little like those Chinese lanterns, you know? Okay. And actually the background comes forward a little bit over here. So that's good to know. Like she has them coming more forward in this area. It's like a little piece of land coming further close, and then all of some, let's see. All right. All right, so let's see. Adding some stuff here. One thing I did too when I started thinking like about doing more children's book illustrations, I bought a bunch of books. I mean, spoiler alert. I think it's a good idea. Like, look in the children's book section and see what books stand out to you. That's one thing that I wanted to do too. Is like, I looked to see what was the first like cover. I went into Target. They have a children's book section, and I just looked across the board and looked to see which cover stood out the most to me, and I just bought the book. And I'll be doing work with that artist later. He's a male artist. Where's he from? I want to say he's Egyptian, but I'm not sure. I'll have to look him up. I definitely want to do one of his pieces in this series. But he really gave me some good inspiration for like cover, and it really made me think too, like having one bold color that can make a big difference. Like you want to have a very simple cover and have like a standout color, like a bold standout color. That really like caught my eye. It might be different for you, so I mean you can go into the children's book section of, you know, whatever bookstore, or like, you know, even Targets and Walmarts and different like catch-all stores have children's book sections. But I would highly recommend just going and seeing like what book stands out to you, and buy the book. You know, buy the book. That way you can really take your time and look at the illustrations like up close, and see which ones really stand out to you. One of the things that I didn't even know about, I just didn't realize that it's done often in children's book illustration, is having like spot illustrations, which would be like just a part of a page, and like let's just say you just have like this, and then the words are here, whatever, and another one here. It's almost, and you're just illustrating in this little bubble. So you're just explaining one thing, and you might not even have a border around it, but you're just like explaining you have an illustration just for that portion, and then you might have something else happening here with your characters, and like more writing over here. So you can have more than one illustration on a page and just kind of simplify it. And even you might not even have like the border or the background. It could just be like your characters doing something fun, for example. But that really stood out to me because I just didn't notice that was going on. And that's like the great thing too about learning from other people, is because you'll learn things that you didn't or couldn't even think of on your own. Like especially if you're starting in a new medium and in a new like category, or you know, you're changing your focus. Like for the longest time I was focused on animation, and now the animation industry specifically, but now I'm more focused on publishing. And you'll learn things when you pay attention, take classes, get mentored, find ways to get mentored. Let's see, I don't know what's happening right here, but I think I want to delete this and make it different. I want to clarify this area a little more. This should be coming here, but this is confusing, so I'm going to move this. And this is confusing. Anything that's confusing, I think I'm just going to take it out, because I don't want anything. You don't want to have anything that's confusing to you, because if it's confusing to you, it's going to be confusing to your viewer. These are things that I just like, you know, pick out. One thing that I really learned, and this was something that I actually learned on my own just from practicing, is like, even if you're doing a drawing from observation, which we do a lot, you know, we're not just doing that when we're doing studies, we also do that when we're figure drawing, or when we're at the zoo drawing. You know, we do lots of things that are like observational drawing. And one of the things that I took note of several years ago is that when you're drawing from what you see, also don't forget what you know, because it's easy to just try and do exactly what you're looking at, which if you don't also take into account all of the knowledge that you already have, all of the lessons that you've already learned, you're not going to get the most out of it. Never forget that you're not coming from an empty slate. You're already coming from whatever it is that you already do know, which is whatever it is you've already learned from however many years, months, or days you've been drawing. I know that people not coming from the same experience, but from whatever experience that you've learned from drawing, whether that's practicing shape language or principles of design. Also incorporate that knowledge, because it's going to show through and it's going to make your drawing stronger. So yeah, you're drawing from observation, you're drawing what you're seeing, but you're also not forgetting all of the design principles that you've already learned, and that's important to remember. Because it can be easy to get caught up in just what you're looking at. You don't want to do that. So bring in your knowledge of composition, bring in your knowledge of color, bring in your knowledge of shape language and line, and incorporate that into what you're doing. One of the things I also learned whenever I considered it fan art, what I was doing before. I don't really do fan art anymore. I don't like fan art. It's not for me. I just realized it's not for me. I was trying to do it because I thought people would like it, but it's not for me. But one of the things I did learn when I was doing fan art, or when I was, doing that, was don't just do it just to do it, but try to make it even better if you can. Try to make it, try to do it to the point where you want to really do a good job. You don't want to just be going with the motion, or just be going, dilly-dallying in it. But you want to really do it well. So that's something to keep in mind also. Alrighty, we're getting towards the end here. I don't know how much, I don't think I'll be able to finish the whole thing right now, or the whole drawing. Surprisingly, just doing the drawing took the whole hour, but that's okay. The point is to just, do it to the best of the ability you can. But this has been awesome, learning from her, learning how much detail she's incorporating. That really was probably the biggest eye-opener for me thus far, studying Lucy Fleming. And I really hope I can learn and incorporate more of what she's doing into my art, because I really enjoy her style, particularly those backgrounds. I just think they're so fun and engaging, and there's even so much more that's going to be added once we get into the color stage, because there's all these tiny little marks and things and little details that are also added. But it just makes me think, okay, when I'm doing my own work, don't skimp out on the details. It makes a difference. People won't even know why they're attracted to the work, because I didn't even realize exactly how detailed it was before doing this study. But people won't know why they're attracted to your work, but they'll just be attracted to it. And it's going to make you a stronger artist, and it's going to make people want to work with you. People want to hire you to illustrate their book. And that's the goal, right? We want more people to hire us. We want to actually be able to support our family and our life doing work. That's doing work that we love to do. That's the point. That's the goal. That's the goal. To not have a day job or worry about other stuff, but just be able to make art for the rest of your life. And not starve while doing it. Nobody wants to be starving artists. We want to be fruitful artists with flourishing careers. That's what we want. People think sometimes that artists are lazy and they just want to, goof off. Some people really think stuff like that. No, we want to make our art. We want to make it well. We want it to flourish. We want to reach people. with the work that we do. And that's the bottom line. 'Cause Stone Cold said so. All right, guys. I see you. I know when I'm not wanted. All right. That's going to be it for today, but I will be back next week. For next Friday is going to be studying the masters, but I'll be here on Tuesday for making a graphic novel. We're continuing with JD's story. And Wednesday, remember, we're doing the book club review, so make sure that you get the book, okay? That's going to be Wednesday, 11:15 a.m., but I will be here PST. Let's see, Tuesday noon we're going live. Okay, hopefully I feel better. Hopefully I don't have to cancel because I'm so sick. But I will see you guys next time. But until then, have a great weekend. Be grateful, live balanced, be yourself. See ya.